Alright, we're back to a full last track guide. We're at Sonoma. And it's a road course, obviously, and there's a lot of dead grass, but let's not worry about that. Let's get right to the keys of the race card. So, tires, yes, they actually matter now, but not to the extent that you think. And that's all I can say. And the next one you'll probably see in the background is this big-ass curb. They didn't shave it down for us, because we're peasants. But the car does not like it because of the diffuser. And the last one we'll get to actually after this, and that's pit road entry. It's a little bit, it's a whole corner, and then there's like a turn on pit road, but that's pretty much it. I don't know what else. You can see the other notes right there. Pause it if you want, but we're going to go ahead and get to the pit road, then we'll talk about the lap. Alright, making our way to pit road. Second to last quarter, and here we go. Hard on the brakes, all the way down to 45 miles per hour. Don't hit the wall because I've done it. There's your start of the pit. Speed limit. Speed this up a little bit because there's a turn there. There's your exit cone, and there's your merge cone. And there we go. Alright, fix it up, fix weather. But I will say the weather in the A-Fixed is scorching at a 131 track temp, which is what I'm going to show you right now. But we're doing a little bit cooler at a 108, I believe. I'm not sure. Only change I did was steering ratio to 287, and brake bias actually went up to a 48 just because that's just me. And that's it. So we'll see how this lap was done, and we'll talk about this one. We're not gonna do the hot one. So here we go. And there we have it for a 114.5, which I'm sure you'll see 13s in this weather, because the 131, they were hitting 14.7s in Q, which is unreal in that, that hot. So let's back that up. All right, so we're going to make our way into one. You should be in fifth gear by the time you're at the start finish. Not the most optimal gearing that I would have gone with, but yeah, so let me slow-mo it because we're turning in here. We're going to start to lift probably as we're going by this thing down to fourth gear. You should be right there. You can see the amount of brake we're using. I'm going to go down to third gear too, kind of all within like the same RPM range. Then as I'm going under the bridge, I think I go to second. You can see the varying amount of throttle and brake. It's just kind of how you got to get through here. You can't really have a guideline to it. You kind of just, you got to feel it out. So get close to this curb, which I will pause after we're kind of over this little crest. And I mentioned the crest because it gets weird. Once you get over that little, to where you could see again, you have no rear grip, but you also have the most rear grip. I don't know how to explain that one. So here, if you track out all the way to the curbing, to me, I found less grip out there. So I'm keeping it more towards the center, middle, right. And we grabbed an upshift there, and I'm going to pause here again because this is a big old dip, or compression, if you will. So actually, you can use the uphill to kind of slow you down more, but you're also getting a dip, so that's not going to, it's kind of going to counteract it. So let me slow on that because we're going in the dip, and that's when I'm actually on the brakes. You can go to second here, but I don't. Get right up against that curb. Don't hit it because any form, and I mean zero, or any percentage of bounce, well, this car absolutely hates. You can see me using some throttle here to get it to rotate, but not too much, because if I stayed off the throttle, it would have kept turning right. We would have grazed that curb, and there goes like 2/10, which I actually think I do end up doing. Right there, you can actually see the bounce a little bit, but it's not much. I got away with that. Here, the car got really light over that hill. And here, this is another hard section to explain. You see the cone little pylon thingy over there? A little orange stick? Little orange dildo sticking up out of the ground. Yeah, we're kind of using that, but also this dirt stain that seems to always be present. Regardless if you go off. I'm already on the brakes though, by the way, so that's just kind of my reference point to tell me to start thinking about braking. You can go down to second here too, but I don't. This one you got to be nice and straight, using all the brake that you can, and then turn in relatively late, and you want to barely graze this first nub in on the inside of the curb. Now here's the curb I was talking about in the intro. You can see how much it unsettles a car. It's a big, giant curve versus the real world, which they flatten down to nothing because, well, this car sucks. I'm just going to say it. I pause it here because there's another little thing I'm looking at. There's another orange dildo over there. We're going to ignore that. There's a flagpole, or a light pole, if you will. And there's this little wall color change. I'm using like all three. Except I'm braking like 2 car lengths later than that. Right here, hard on the brakes. We are going to grab a downshift. Nice and straight, but don't go too out there because it gets really bumpy. You trail off into the corner. The car likes to roll through here. It's kind of why I get off the brake a little bit, but I had to kind of use all the brake power to get the car to slow down, so I pretty much had no choice. So let me slow mode again. Get right to the apex, don't clip it. Though you can use that to rotate you if you need to. Hard on the throttle, but it gets slippery right as you're going over that curb, which is when I chose the upshift. And we're going to do it again right before this curb. Now that's for me to be more in control when I go to fourth gear. Not just for wheel spin, but to keep the speed kind of bleeding off slowly. I don't want to let the RPMs do the work. I want it to slowly reduce the speed while using a tiny bit of brake to set the front end. So we want to grab this curb here. Not a lot of it, too much in it. Bounces like crazy. Same with this one, but you kind of can't miss it because if you do, it might not turn. Hard on the throttle once you're kind of straight. And here's the, most high speed section, if you will, besides the front stretch. And we're going to start braking. Pretty much as we're pointed straight towards that Toyota billboard that's, from decades ago. Or a while ago. I'm pretty much going to stop braking as I'm turning to the right. But I overcooked it slightly, and you want to trail brake to make that up. Get really close to the curb, but try not to hit it, because it upsets the car. You kind of want to get pointed a little straight, but you can pretty much full throttle it from here and just wheel it out using the curb. Though, you know, lately, once you touch a curb, it kind of slickens up the car, so watch yourself on exit. Now here, there's another dip into, you know, this section, which is a brake zone. So as soon as I'm landing, I'm hard on the brakes. We're going to downshift to second, by the way. So for third, and then second. You can go to first if you want, but I'm not. Pretty much at the limit of braking, but I will admit I underdrove this corner because I screwed it up so many times in practice. Get right against these tire bundles. Once you feel the rotate, start stepping on the throttle. And kind of power your way out. Car gets real slick there. Oh, wrong lap. But yeah, there you go for a 14.5. Alright, that's it for this track guide. Try to be more in depth than I have been lately if I only had some time. And yeah, not sure. I really don't know what the next track is. So we'll see, I guess. Anyways, sim reason Chewy side.